A big thank you to Jero for sponsoring today's video on Patreon. Yenna versus Duretti. I haven't seen Duretti in a while. Let's see here, we've got 3 lands. Yeah, it's pretty slow. Probably going to get punished for mulliganing this, but we will try. Okay, into another 3-lander. That's slightly better, I suppose. We'll try this. We are on the draw as well, so hopefully be able to get into something half decent. Draw into a Grasp of Fate. I'm playing this in the 1v1 room. I did build it initially for multiplayer, so hopefully it's not too slow. No red mana from our opponent yet, but could get down a Duretti with a mountain next turn. There's an Overwhelming Splendor, which will be good to copy onto multiple opponents, so yeah, we're just going for a turn 2 Aura Shards, I think, which should really hurt our opponent. And our opponent did manage to get into red. That is a Shatter Skull, the Hammer Pass. So did have to bolt that down. Down to 35 already, has discarded a Darksteel Forge and a Graph Digger's Cage. Okay, we draw into Temple Gardens, so yeah, should be fine to shock that in. Yeah, tempting to go for Aura Shards here, but I think a Grasp of Fate to get rid of the commander's just as good. Means that they can't reanimate the indestructible thing, and we don't want this in play if we're going to be reliant on an Aura Shards. Suppose we could have got rid of it with the Grasp of Fate itself though. Duretti going back to the command zone, the mono red player not likely to deal with enchantments all that well. A Crystal Vein now can immediately pay for the command attacks. Instead going for a Gilded Lotus, and then it's a Goblin Engineer throwing a Mycosynth Lattice into the bin, so likely trying to set up some kind of Vandal Blast win. So I do think we're going to be too slow against our opponent here, unfortunately. Flooded Strand allows us into another duel, and I think we'll go for the Yenna. There's every chance that we won't be able to trigger the Aura Shards, but we'll just try our chances here. Okay, now throwing out a Thran Dynamo. 3 cards in hand, our opponent replays the Duretti, and then goes for more rummaging. Do have to put red mana into this, so he hasn't held up the Goblin Engineer. Discarding an Ensnaring Bridge and a Codex Shredder. Played out a Sol Ring and tapped out there, so only 2 cards left in hand. Now we see a Heliod, God of the Sun, which we will be able to make copies of. Drop our 5th land on turn 5. And I think we should be fine to go for a Grasp of Fate here. So that makes a token copy of that. We'll get rid of the Duretti again. And our opponent's got a Deflecting Swat, so he's got absolutely everything here, unfortunately. So pointing it at their Sol Ring instead. Let's go for the 3 Blind Mice. We can make another token copy of the Grasp of Fate next turn. And it is a nice combination, the 3 Blind Mice, because chapters 2 and 3 make copies of a token that you already control. If you've got a token copy of 3 Blind Mice, you can have a copy of this Saga in perpetuity. And obviously we can make those with the Yenna. And if we can consistently make mice, we can consistently get rid of permanents with Aura Shards. So yeah, we're not quite out of it yet. Playing out a Lotus Petal for some more red mana. And now activating the Goblin Engineer allows into a Codex Shredder. Great Furnace ended up in the bin. Mishra's Workshop has been discarded by Duretti as well. So they're at 7 loyalty, 1 card in their hand. They must have milled the Mishra's Workshop actually, so yeah, I think they've just ticked this up and not discarded anything. We can have a look at the bin here anyway. Lotus Petal was, yeah, sacrificed to the Goblin Engineer to get the Codex Shredder, I think. And there's a Great Furnace, Mishra's Workshop in the bin, via some means or another. Alright, so Canopy Vista, the 3 Blind Mice triggers will go after the token copy of the Grasp of Fate. And this can deal with the Duretti. And we'll play the Canopy Vista. We want the Aura Shards in play, ready for Mice tokens to enter. And then we'll go Yenna and make a copy of the 3 Blind Mice so that we've got a token copy of that in play. So then token copy enters and Mouse comes into play. Let's blow up the Gilded Lotus to take them off some red mana. And hopefully we're set up nicely to be able to deal with our opponent here. We'll swing in with the Mouse and put them on that 31 turn clock. Duretti into play yet again. So can make a sacrifice here. And no, instead decide to tick up. Throwing a Barbarian Ring and a land into the bin, then playing a Mountain. Still 1 card in hand. Then Krark-Clan Ironworks being milled by the Codex Shredder. There's a Sanctum Weaver for some more mana. So create a token copy. We'll make a token copy of the 3 Blind Mice. And yeah, we'll just do that again. So we've got perpetual 3 blind mice triggers here. So every new one that comes in will give us a mouse, which triggers the aura shards. Go after the Thran Dynamo. Not worthy our opponent tapped down his red mana actually, so can't go for the Goblin Engineer. And then Codex Shredder as well, switching off the Engineer. And now we can go for Heliod, God of the Sun, and make a copy of that, I think, so that we can start dealing some real damage. That is animated thanks to all the white token copies. We can only do Yenna at sorcery speed, so we'll make a copy of the Heliod, and it will not be legendary. So we've got a couple of 5/6 gods at this point. The mouse tokens, I suppose we can swing in at Doretti. Obviously blocks one of them with the Engineer. Alright, a Karmic Justice is a nice thing to have in play, because if they do manage to blow up our enchantments, we'll be able to go after their lands. So creatures we control get +1/+1 and Vigilance until the end of the turn, because the original is going to be sacrificed here. Then create a token copy of something. We'll keep a 3 blind mice in play. We'll go after another Grasp of Fate to get rid of the Doretti. And we'll go after another Heliod. So +1/+1 and Vigilance on all of our stuff. No reason not to swing in straight away here, I don't think. Could maybe have gone for Ethereal Armor onto something, but that probably gets chump blocked anyway. They can't make any decent blocks here. So just deciding to take it. 2 cards in hand, they plummet down to 5. So why don't we go after a Karmic Justice, just in case they can do something to us here. And we'll make another Karmic Justice with the Yenna. And then time to see if our opponent's got anything for us. Left a mana up there and didn't go for the Ethereal Armor. I suppose we could have done that. Haven't copied a single aura this game. Haven't made use of the Scry. Still not seeing any artifacts from my opponent. The Ancient Tomb has effectively been switched off. Getting to a Plains. +1/+1 and Vigilance on all of our stuff again, thanks to us having these perpetual 3 blind mice. We'll make more copies of these. Go after another Heliod and 2 more 3 blind mice. Alright, I appreciate my opponent playing it out, assuming that he doesn't have anything. Don't see what he could do in mono red, to be honest. We'll just turn in sideways, or not, thanks to the Vigilance. Alright, and just getting kicked out into the lobby immediately, so I'll assume that we won that one. Appreciate my opponent playing it out. We'll do another one. Yenna versus Urza this time, and that is a tempting keep. Are we going to get into green mana? We're on the draw. Let's keep it. Shouldn't keep that one, but we'll try it. If we can get into green mana, then it's a pretty damn good hand. Alright, that is instead an Idyllic Tutor, which we cannot use to go for some aura-based ramps, so I'm just going to go for the Idyllic Tutor now. Because 3 blind mice, I don't want it to go off before we get a chance to make a copy of it. So I'll just go after the Enchantress's Presence here and keep my fingers crossed. Could have got some kind of answer to what I think my opponent might be doing, like a Darksteel Mutation or something, but we're praying for a land here. That is an Ornithopter of Paradise. Okay, not getting into a green source. We've got 3 Enchantresses available to us though. So we're just holding on to Teferi's Protection really. Might be able to keep our opponent from blowing up a Mana Crypt. Although it's not likely in Esper. Alright, they revealed a Plains to us previously, but not playing it out. Instead seeing a Dark Ritual. So that gets them into their Urza. And gets them a 2/2 Calmstruck token. Alright, and an Aura of Silence. So we might as well get the 3 blind mice going then. We can at least make some chump blocks here and there. But it may well be that we don't ever get the chance to go for the 3 blind mice thing again. A Goldmere now. So it's a 3/3 with Menace. We cannot block. We could chump block the Urza. It's commander damage, so I think it's probably a good idea. Draw into a Heliod again, so yeah, not having the best of luck here, are we? Might as well play the Teferi's Protection so that we don't have to discard anything then. And that will protect our life total through the next cycle. Our opponent just passing through with 6 mana held up. 3 cards in our opponent's hand. And do we get a land by turn 5? Oh, of course we don't. So we'll discard the Overwhelming Splendour. We are nowhere near that. And we have well and truly lost out on the 3 blind mice now. And our opponent's swinging in at us now with 3 constructs. Each are 5/5, so we plummet down to 14, and it's probably way too late now. Even taking a bolt to the Mana Crypt on the way out. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why you don't keep 1 land hands. So we'll pass it straight over to our opponent, even lose our Saga as well. The last game went well, so we can't exactly complain. We'll take our hit from the Urza. Yeah, so down we go. Can't leave it like that, so we'll try again. Playing against old Flitterfang this time, and yeah, we're not making the mistake of keeping a one-lander again. 3 Blind Mice definitely wants to make an appearance though. Into another tempting one-lander thanks to that Sylvan Library, but we'll have to go down 2 cards apparently. Into a 2-lander is fine, we keep. Get rid of Replenish and Ghostly Prism. We are on the draw once again. See a turn 1 fairy. When it enters the battlefield, surveil 1. Okay, drawing into Clever Concealment, so we're just keeping our fingers crossed for more lands, just like the last game. Dreams of Steel and Oil from our opponent there, having us discard our Eidolon of Blossoms, so that was our means of card draw. But we draw straight into another one in Mesa Enchantress, so again, just hoping for a land so that we can actually play that. Now our opponent just holding up 3 mana and passing the turn gets us straight into fixing our colours, so play out the Mesa Enchantress and pray that our opponent isn't holding up removal. Our opponent then casting Bleed Dry, -13, exiling our Enchantress. So yeah, getting into these auras, but nothing to do with them unfortunately, because we've lost 2 of our Enchantresses. Pass the turn. Looks like our opponent's continuing to hold up interaction on us. A Karametra, our mana woes continue. A 5th land into Ecstatic Awakener, which transforms into Awoken Demon, and then a Demon's Due. So ending the turn with 4 cards in hand, swings in at us for 1 again. And we get into a Temple Garden, so let's test our opponent on some more removal. We'll have to attempt to go for the Yenna. Heirloom Mirror this time. Can pay 1 tap, a life, and discard to draw a card, mill, and put a ritual counter on it. And if it has 3 or more, transform it into a flying 4/4. And our opponent makes use of that straight away, seeing the back of an Ashnod's Intervention. Milled a Bladed Battle Fan as well. Okay, and undo Spell Dancer now, so I think we go for the Ethereal Armor onto Yenna. Actually, we'll go for All That Glitters, it's a better use of our mana. And we'll do this simply for the fact that we get to scry when we make a copy of All That Glitters, assuming that this actually lands. Alright, so copy the All That Glitters with our commander, obviously enchanting our own commander again. A Sol Ring and a Forest. Alright, so we'll go Forest on top, Sol Ring on top, draw into the Sol Ring next turn. Probably get down the Karametra. Might have to go for Song of the Dryads onto this thing and get another scry going. Try and switch off their card draw. And should have swung in there, completely forgot that she untaps herself with auras. Ariette's Tempting Apple now. So going to gain control of our creature, and then we'll be able to sacrifice it with this, so yeah, we get a rough idea of what our opponent wants to do here. Alright, not bothering to swing in with it, just sacrificing it straight away. We will put it in the command zone. And now this thing has been transformed, so swinging in with a 4/4 obviously would have dealt more damage to us if he'd gone in at us with our commander, but wanted to transform that straight away. We know what we're drawing into. It is finally some mana in the form of a Sol Ring. And we'll get down the Karametra ready to cast creatures into that so that we can finally start getting our mana fixed. Writhing Necromass, lots of cards I don't know about here. Costs 1 less for each creature in your graveyard, a 5/5 with Death Touch. Seems as though our opponent's gone for some kind of pauper draft chaff type thing. And then activating this thing again means that there is a Dross Pits and a Diagraph Horde in the bin. And we take 5 more damage to the creatures. Again, we know what we're drawing into, that's a Forest, so now do we go for our commander again? Or do we go after the Undo Spirit Dancer? Yeah, I think getting copies of the Karametra is fine, so we'll ramp regardless, no matter which one we go after. So Karametra triggering on a creature being cast. And we've got Yavimaya in place so that all our lands tap for green. So that means we might as well go for a Plains here. And let's play out the Ethereal Armor just to maximise our mana. That means that we can block this thing as well now. Now this thing finally being transformed. And it's a flying 4/4 we said. A couple of swamps ended up in the bin, 2 cards in our opponent's hand. And there we see our opponent's commander hit play, so that might have to eat a Song of the Dryads. Now seeing Nezumi Prowler, when it enters the battlefield, a creature gains Death Touch and Lifelink, so they can still swing in with this, because we're certainly not going to block with our commander. So taking another hit for 5 and 10 with this thing, because that has Death Touch as well. Alright, another Forest for us, so play out a land. And I think we need to start making use of Song of the Dryads. So let's go for Undo Spirit Dancer. We can ramp again. We're going to get enough devotion on Karametra to make it so that she's an indestructible creature. Not going to be able to copy her this turn, unfortunately. So we'll go Song of the Dryads, and we can put that on the commander here, I think. We will get a copy of it. So we will just go after the flyer here as well, I think. Our opponent might have us here. Yeah, we will be able to make some blocks. And then go for the Clever Concealment, and that might be our only way out of this. Missing out on mana for far too long here. I think it was about turn 7 or 8 by the time we got into some extra mana. So we just have to hold back. Draw Skull Bomb into play. Return a creature from graveyard to hand. Draw a card only as a sorcery. Or they can just sack it and draw. Draw Spell Bomb, returning the Diagraph Horde. And then seeing an Etched Familiar. 2 cards in our opponent's hand. When it dies, each opponent loses 2 and you gain 2. So we'll have to watch out for that thing. Now we do have an 8/8 and an Indestructible in the way, so we'll see if our opponent wants to swing in with anything other than the flyer. Apparently not. So 5 mana held up, going round to our turn again. Alright, just drawing into a Verdant Haven. It is cool that this is the one that gains us 2 life though. Be able to ramp a little bit and gain some life. Alright, so with Undo Spirit Dancer, yeah, I suppose we can just make the copy with that. Verdant Haven gains us 2. And we'll put the other one on a different land. And that one will enter and gain us a couple of life as well, bumping us up to 15. The Yenna is now a 10/10. So let's go for first making a copy of the Ethereal Armor, because we'll get a scry out of it. As we saw before, the Yenna will untap. Ethereal Armor, this one can go on the Undo Spirit Dancer. Alright, there is a Sphere of Safety, is probably worth keeping. The Anointed Procession will make things pretty crazy as well. So, yeah, we'll go top and top. So now we've got a 10/10 and an 11/11. And I think we'll make a copy of the Karametra. Maybe could have held off on that until we get the Anointed Procession into play, but I don't mind having multiple Indestructibles in play at the moment. We'll still be able to hold up the Clever Concealment through our next turn as well. Still not sure we've fully stabilised here. Now seeing that Diagraph Horde come into play with a couple of 2/2 Decayed. And now our opponent's going to be able to exile a couple of things from graveyards. So we've got 2 cards in here, which could be relevant because we do have Sun Titan in the deck. 1 card in hand, and it's a Lord Skitter's Butcher now. So they can make a rat, have their creatures gain Menace, which could be relevant actually. Or scry 2 and draw. Yep, creatures gain Menace until the end of the turn, so we're going to take 5, 6, 7, 8 damage here. We'll be able to gang up on the Death Toucher though. Finally get rid of that. Yep, turning sideways with all of it. Have to remember that when this thing dies, it'll deal 2 to us as well. So we'll go after the Death Toucher, take our 5, 6, 7, yes it is 8 damage. Now when the Sphere of Safety comes in, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 enchantments we've got in play, I think. And it'll be 9 including the Sphere of Safety, 10 including the copy of Sphere of Safety, so yeah, our opponent might only be able to swing in with 1 creature. Got 10, 11, 12 mana, so yeah, just 1 creature. I mean, we're really just treading water here thanks to losing our Enchantresses. So we'll play out the Sphere of Safety. Not sure how relevant Anointed Procession is going to be now, because I don't think we're able to wait to make a copy of this. I think we should just do it now. And we'll make a copy with the Undo Spirit Dancer so that we're able to keep the Yenna untapped. So if they can only swing in with 1 creature, it should be safe for us to start turning in sideways. They've got a Death Toucher in the way, so a couple of Karametras should be alright, I hope. Yeah, we should put the Ethereal Armor on the Karametras now. Just have to hope that they can't make a load of mana into the Sphere of Safety, but they deserve to win this one anyway, so we'll finally start crashing in with the Karametras. We do have First Strike on our 2 creatures thanks to the Ethereal Armor, so Death Touch isn't as frightening to us if they decide to turn in sideways with a big Death Toucher. Maybe should attack in with the bigger creatures thanks to First Strike instead. Maybe we'll do that next turn. Obviously they did take the damage here, so going down to 27. 0 cards in hand. As an additional cost to play this, sack a creature, discard or pay 4. When it enters, each opponent sacks a creature, discards a card, and loses 4 life. Okay. So I think our opponent's pretty close to having us here. If he swings in with this and forces us to block, we lose 2. That will put us down to 1. So if we have to discard anyway, we might as well go for the Clever Concealment, and that will help us to keep our creatures in play as well. But we do have to be wary of the fact that we'll be having enchantments leave play, so maybe it's not worth it. We'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 enchantments in play, and our opponent's only got 5 mana, so shouldn't be able to swing in. So yeah, we'll phase out our creatures here. We do still lose the life, because unlike Teferi's Protection, we cannot save our life with the Clever Concealment. I miscalculated the life anyway. This thing hitting us would have got us, but the Ariat's Tempting Apple, totally forgot about the life loss on this, so our opponent does get us. We were way too slow there. So that ended up being a really cool game, losing against the Draft Chaff Pauper deck, whatever it was. Yeah, dealing with our Enchantresses early on really slowed us down. That and the fact that we couldn't get into mana, but yeah, that was a cool, fun game regardless. I think you got an idea of what we want to do with Yenna. Like I said, it's not really suited for 1v1 this deck, so if you're looking for a 1v1 version of this deck, then you'll have to tweak this one. This is really meant for multiplayer. But didn't have a chance to get a multiplayer game in with it, and I don't imagine it's going to be that particularly popular a commander now anyway, so if you do want to see more from it, then let me know in the comments section as usual. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.